Hey there, hope you're doing well. In this video, let's talk about, I'm not going to talk about a particular technology in this video. I'm just going to talk about a few different technologies, right? And it's a slightly different kind of video because typically I go into a certain technical aspect of it and I try to dig as deep as I could. In the 1 minute I try to do it in, and then it becomes 2 and 3, and then it ends up becoming like 10 minutes, right? But regardless, in this one I'm going to talk about something slightly, hopefully a little bit different. Let's talk about multiple technologies, polyglot, cross-platform, all of those types of things, right? So, when you're looking for work, or when you're in work, when you're in a certain job and you're looking and your team changes direction, or there could be a number of reasons. Like, long story short, you've been working on a certain technology for a little while, and then now you have to make that switch. Maybe you also incorporate that into the mix, right? In our case, like at Snowpile, it's hardly ever a switch. We adopt new technologies not just because they become available, it's because we always try to find the best way to solving that next problem. And just because we did something a certain way in the past is absolutely no indication of why we have to do it that way in the future. If anything, we actually try not to do it because we get bored of using the same technology, and sometimes we are guilty of doing something very differently while we actually may not have had to. And that just because as developers, that's like a carrot, right? We want to treat ourselves to something new. But outside of that, we treat every problem on its own merit and try to solve that problem both from a business standpoint and a technology standpoint in the best way that we think that we are able to solve it, given the timelines, given the time frame, the milestones, and yada yada yada, right? A lot of those factored in. But what I want to talk to more specifically in this video is, as you're a developer today, and then you're going to be a better developer tomorrow, and an even better one the day after. It's not just every day, but you get the idea, right? You're going to be working on different technologies. Years ago, you could have been working on Java for a long time. The versions changed. Different frameworks came into play within the world of Java development. But fundamentally, the language, the syntax pretty much stayed intact, right? But when you go to the JavaScript world, it's very different, right? Things change a whole lot more frequently. Frameworks that are very popular or libraries that are extremely popular one day become not so popular the next day, and then completely wane in popularity a few months after. So you have to be on the edge, so you adopt what's new, and then make sure your system remains stable, but you adopt these newer technologies. So when you build new pages or new APIs, you do them the right way in the most current manner. And that's a good thing. But what happens is there are challenges there. Now you have a team, and unless you're a large company, you have a small group of people who need to know all of these things. Like in our case, for instance, on a daily basis, we have to work on n number of technologies and frameworks. I'm going to list some of them here. We work on them in different capacities, but we do work on them regardless. I'm just going to give you a flat list just so you get an idea. We use Backbone, Marinette, Require.js, React, Next.js, Node, Ruby on Rails, Sinatra, other core Ruby frameworks. We use MongoDB, RabbitMQ, Mustache, Handlebars, what else? Flutter, Dart, Amazon Services, Heroku, EC2. I don't know, I'm sure I missed a bunch, but that gives you an idea, right? Of course, CSS, CoffeeScript, ECMAScript, other JavaScript libraries, other SAS and CSS libraries. So and we integrate with a lot of third-party frameworks as well for a ton of things that we do. So there's a variety of stuff that we do, and they are across, not just UI, middleware, backend, and things of that nature, but it's also a number of different languages, syntactically very, very different from each other. So it's very exciting, and it's also challenging, as you can imagine. Now there are days we work only on Ruby or Node or JavaScript front-end, back-end, or Dart or Flutter. But trust me, there are weeks or days where there was like literally over the weekend, I ended up having to work on Ruby, JavaScript, and Dart literally on the same day, like within a 4-hour window. Your mind takes a little bit of time to shift gears because syntactically they're all different. One of them is strongly typed, the other ones are not. So you have to make these adjustments. But what I want to say is it's super fun as an engineer, but as somebody, if you're not a developer and you're looking to find help, I've seen this happen more often than I think it should. People tend to look for someone who's worked on a certain library, a certain framework, certain language, I think it's all right. It's easier if somebody already knows what you expect for them to know, so you don't onboarding becomes a little bit easier. But things are going to change all the time, so you don't know what problems you're going to have tomorrow, what features you want to build the next day, 6 months after. So if I were you, and this is what I do when I'm finding help, I try to find good engineers, and it does not matter if they've worked or have not worked on the current, not just current, on the frameworks, libraries, or the languages that we are actually that we need at any given point of time. Like for instance, we don't have any Python or C# code at this point. That's not to say that we wouldn't build something tomorrow using one of them. C# seems a little unlikely, but it's always possible, right? Similarly, there's other things, right? Maybe we might end up implementing a Java backend service as well. So the thing is, you want to make sure you find people who are extremely passionate about what they do, are eager to learn these new technologies, things that change, are able to adapt to change. And that's a whole lot more important than somebody who's done a certain number of things for n number of years. Because every time people ask me, how long have you done something for? I'm like, yeah, as you get older, you're bound to have done it for longer, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily good at something I've done for a long time, and I'm not good at something I may not have done for long enough, right? Because you could have a single year's experience repeated 10 times. That doesn't make it 10 years experience. And similarly, whatever, you get the idea. So I think you have to be embracing of new technologies. I know it's harder when you're in production. Since we've been live, the pace at which we adopt new technologies is slowed down, right? We don't have the luxury of changing everything all the time, because we actually have a good number of users in production who are using our services, and we want to make sure their experience remains seamless, beautiful, and stable and scalable as we continue to grow. So that's on us to be able to maintain that, so there's no regression and all of those bad things that we don't want to be associated with. At the same time, we don't want to be caught in time. We don't want to be stuck in time either, because it's going to be difficult to find. Like if I needed some help with require.js today, it gets harder. It was a whole lot easier like 2-3 years before. Now finding someone who's doing Webpack is probably it's a whole lot easier. So we have to make those adjustments sometimes because we want to build them quicker, and the newer technology actually gives us the bang for the buck. You can do things in a more cleaner fashion. At other times, it's because we cannot find resources for doing things we've done a slightly different way, because we did that maybe 2 years before, right? 2 years ago. So keep that in mind. And as you're trying to find help, I know there's a lot of people available, and there's a lot of companies too. And there are a lot of products that come into play, so they try to automate the hiring process, which I think is good. But I'm yet to find one that actually has solved the problem the way I wanted for it to solve. So maybe we'll build something one day, I don't know. But anyways, right? Just give the engineers a chance. Try to find out what they do know as opposed to what they don't know. Because if they have the aptitude, the right attitude, and the passion, I'm pretty sure they'll pick up those skills in no time and stand you in good stead, right? Anyways, that's all I want to say. Sure, it took longer than it probably should have. And before I end the video, if you've not downloaded our apps or checked us out on the web, do so. Go to snowpile.com or go to the App Store or the Play Stores and organize yourself at work, school, college, whatever it is that you want to be organized about. You can use our product. Thank you.